Joining us now for newspaper review is Vimbai Butinheri Ekpeyong, our favorite Niger wife. OG's voice.
Yes, I know, right? We have to make sure we chime in when OG's are here. Morning, Rotis. Morning, Rufai. Like I said when I walked in, gosh, it's feeling very democratic around here. But you know what? Let's take a little bit.
Give us a sprinkle of Republican.
Well, no, you know what? Let's look at what's happening here at home. You know, let's try and spend more time with.
Trumpian.
I was about to say Zimbabwean, Nigerian papers. Let's focus on what's happening here at home. We begin with This Day, our newspaper, for record. Of course, This Day is leading with the big story that you all analyzed and dissected in such great detail this morning, and that is the NNPC announces 3.3 trillion net profit in 2023 audited financial statements. Some of the major takeaways, of course, is that they're saying that no subsidies have been paid to any marketers in 9 years, and says a firm handling shortfalls, not paying subsidies. One of the quotable quotes was that we're selling petrol at half the landing cost, but it is not subsidy. So I read an interesting analysis that was saying that, well, the Buhari administration chose to call it under recovery. So this administration is choosing to call it shortfall. So I guess it's all in the language around not wanting to call it subsidy, perhaps. Anyway, another big story just above that lead, below the masthead, police invite NLC President Joe Ajero for questioning over terrorism, financing, treason, others, and they warn that failure to honor letter will lead to activation of warrant of arrest. So there's been a back and forth between the police and the NLC since just after the End Bad Governance protest, when we learned that the NLC headquarters were raided by police. The police said that they were tracking a person of interest, a foreigner of interest, who apparently was stationed in the same building as the NLC. But it looks like investigation is now pointing towards the NLC president. NLC have also commented and released their own presser refuting all of the allegations. However, an invitation from the police is an invitation from the police. So we will be watching developments closely as Joe Ajero goes to meet with the police. And at the top of This Day newspaper, electricity supply. FG pays 205 billion from 1.3 trillion owed power generation companies. Of course, we know that the federal government has been in over trillions, billions, so much money, over $1 trillion in debt to the gencos. So they've been able to pay just about 200 billion of that 1.3 trillion that is owed. This Day on a Tuesday, we all know, comes with that incredibly informative pullout called The Lawyer. So The Lawyer today is leading with the Paris Olympics. It says, we came, we saw, we failed.
Ouch.
Brutal front page. But once we dive in, of course, we do always like to take a look at The Advocate, which is written every week by Onikepo Braithwaite. She talks about the new CJN. Of course, we have been celebrating the emergence of Nigeria's second female CJN, that's Justice Kekere Edun. She says, of new CJN non-performers and subversive lawmakers. Quotable quote from her article. You definitely want to take a look at it. She always unpacks a lot of issues holistically. But the number one quote is, it is time to hold President Tinubu to the warning he gave at the November 2023 Cabinet Retreat for Ministers, which is that if you don't perform, you leave us. So we're still waiting with bated breath to see a few heads rolling in various departments. And she's talking sports and she's talking a number of other sectors where she feels it's time for us to see heads rolling. Now, let's move to Daily Trust. Daily Trust is leading with all issues concerning corruption. And this takes us to Kano State. It says Kano Governor's Chief of Staff Kwankwaso's nephew and others are under probe. Now, this is concerning a corrupt deal that apparently transpired where medical supplies were alleged to be contracted to all the over 40 LGAs of Kano State, but the whole thing is mired in controversy. Now, this is coming after revelations. I don't know if you guys have seen a TikToker called Dan Bello. Dan Bello has been on a roll where it concerns Kano State Governor. And what he does is he releases these videos on TikTok, which are explainers and reveal corruption, as he alleges, happening in various departments and from various individuals in Kano State government. Quite a table shaker he has been, that's for sure. But this is the fallout following that report by Dan Bello. Now, of course, the image we see there is the image of the new presidential jet as President Tinubu flew to France yesterday in his new jet. However, the presidency is still silent on the cost of that jet. Estimates are saying $100 million, but in the statement from the presidency confirming the purchase of the new jet, there was no mention of cost. Very last on Daily Trust, 90 billion Hajj subsidy probe. Tinubu fires National Hajj Commission Chairman Jalal Arabi. Well, I guess this is appropriate since just now in the lawyer we were talking about heads rolling. Jalal Arabi has been answering to EFCC and now he has been relieved of his duties as the chairman of NACOM. It makes me wonder what's happening with Betta Edu because, she's been answering to, inquiries as well, but we don't know the status of her investigation. Anyway, to the Guardian newspaper now. Guardian is focusing on what's happening with us trying to get electricity online across the states, especially now with the Electricity Act that gives states more powers. States' 600 billion right-of-way fees stall 90 power telecoms projects. So this report says that the desperation by state governments to increase revenue profile may have stalled over 90 projects across the country and complicated efforts to increase electricity output because the states now want the right-of-way fees that are supposed to be paid to TCN. The states are demanding that they be paid directly to them, allegedly, in this report. Also on The Guardian, the dollar defies fresh interventions, consolidates at 1,600 naira to the dollar. And last but not least, on The Guardian, as fuel scarcity worsens, Atiku knocks Tinubu over subsidy, refineries delay. We move on to the Punch newspaper, which is also leading with all petrol issues. Tankers besiege depots as petrol shortage worsens. Independent outlets sell 950. Black market is now at 1,400, guys. And Ipman is also saying that many fuel trucks are yet to load. NNPC is not yet supplying fuel. Vanguard, again, still with fuel issues. Vanguard leading with an image of fuel queues around the country. However, the lead story there is fresh panic as the federal government demands 50% of aviation agencies' revenue. So the confusion in the aviation sector continues, even though Minister Festus Kayamo in that report did reassure that Nigerian aviation is safe and in great hands. A lot of questions to be asked with regards to revenue concerning the aviation agencies. To the New Telegraph, we'll go through this very quickly. New Telegraph, where 5 years after the appeal court is set to hear ex-CJN Onogen's suit challenging his removal from office today. Of course, we do know that right now it's CJN season. This is unrelated, of course, to the end of the tenure of the Chief Justice Arola, who's handing over to Justice Kekere Adun. However, we remember the case, the very famous case of CJN Onogen, the controversy around it, and he is finally having his day at the appeal court. Let's go to the rest of the continent. We start in Kenya, where the Daily Nation is leading with Raila snubs Uhuru talks. So the opposition coalition, there was supposed to be an opposition coalition meeting yesterday. However, and this meeting was supposed to take place with former President Uhuru Kenyatta. However, the opposition lawmakers decided to boycott it. And this was because, of course, they've all been given juicy portfolios in William Ruto's cabinet. Now, last but not least, because of time, New York Post. I gotta hit you with New York Post, guys. Let's just sprinkle some humility on this DNC. Joe Biden. So New York Post is saying past his bedtime. Dems deliver final insult by pushing Biden's angry, bitter speech to midnight, which you all know is not prime time. So, they're saying he didn't get, they're labeling his speech as a rant. They say he focused too much on himself. It almost felt like Kamala Harris was an afterthought when he was supposed to be campaigning for Kamala Harris. But anyway, always is good to balance it out with the other side of the narrative. They say past his bedtime.
That's not objective balancing.
The
New York Post is never objective balance. It's not, nobody takes the New York Post seriously in America.
Nobody reads
I'm shocked that you even review it. Nobody takes the New York Post.
We need to go on.
Nobody takes it seriously. So that's not.
But thank you.
Thank you.
It's very good.
It's just like quoting Daily Mail for balancing.
Exactly.
It's just like quoting the National Enquirer. Nobody takes it.
Or Breitbart.
You might as well get Breitbart.
So that shows how difficult it was to get something negative.
Exactly.
about the
Because
day.
everybody
You
likes
have
you
to
must
go
well
to
I
review
thought that
Breitbart.
was the most epic takeaway.
Yeah,
Come on.
but-
You might as well
I
review
read
Breitbart
New
or
York.
bring you Joe Shapiro.
That was good.
All right, well,
Thank
thank you so much,
Thank you so
Bimba. I think what's going on in Kano is also of very good, great interest because it also demonstrates when there are no sacred cows. And because one of the people under investigation is the nephew of the godfather of the governor of the state. So let's see how that plays out. We'll be watching and we'll see that it goes
And
into...
real quickly, Ayo, the presidency should tell us how much was spent on that jet. Have they sold the former jets? When did they buy these new jets? Who gave them the money? Because it's not approved in any budget yet, and even
not a
supplementary.
service-wide vote.
So please, let us hear more. You can't just sneak this up on us.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Bye.